And welcome to the next webinar from Worlddidac and PINO Network, or the Arctic Education Forum. It's a very interesting subject today concerning the continuous learning. To give you a few words about the Arctic Education Forum, for example, it was held already twice consecutively in person in events in 2019 and 2018. And this year we've had several webinars and quite successful ones at that. There is still a lot to go coming forward. Next year, much is planned, but due to the current situation, of course, it's quite difficult to say when that they will happen. But if you keep an eye on social media and their websites, you'll definitely find out. At the same time, I would like to say Worlddidac is also very proud of this cooperation together with PINO Network. And this helps us to show our international connections, and specifically proud to have such important players from Finland today, from such an excellent education country. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to the keynote to Tia Oja from ELU Center.
Thank you. Yes, I think you can see my slides. Good afternoon to all of you, and warmly welcome to this webinar on my behalf on this very important topic, lifelong learning. And thanks to PINO Network and Worlddidac for invitation. My name is Tia Oja, and I work as lifelong learning and lifelong guidance specialist in ELU Center in Oulu, Finland. Since I only have a few minutes here, let's get down to business. Lifelong learning as key to success. Lifelong learning is the common umbrella under which all kinds of teaching and learning should be united. Lifelong learning means all purposeful learning activity undertaken on an ongoing basis with the aim of improving knowledge, skills, and competence. It is voluntary, it's self-motivated pursuit of knowledge for either personal or professional reasons. It is both lifelong and life-wide. It encompasses the whole spectrum of formal, non-formal, and informal learning. Today, following the title of this webinar, I'm focusing more on adults learning in working life. In Finland, some 2 or 3 years ago, we started seriously talking about continuous learning. I actually tried to Google this concept, but found almost nothing, which led me to think that in Europe and worldwide, lifelong learning is still a valid concept. There's also a lot of material under the title Adults Learning at the Workplace. OECD published this year a report on continuous learning in working life in Finland. It defines continuous learning in working life as job-related learning of adults who have completed their initial education and entered working life. It focuses on competitiveness of firms and economy as a whole, so the emphasis is more on business and money side of things than just human potential. Ministry of Education in Finland is preparing reform of continuous learning at the very moment. Lifelong learning is not a new invention or new concept. European Year of Lifelong Learning was held 1996, some 24 years ago, and year 2000 OECD and EU defined in Action and Development Plan Lisbon Agenda that lifelong learning is an imperative or a necessity in order to make EU the most competitive and dynamic knowledge-based economy in the world, capable of sustainable economic growth with more and better jobs and greater social cohesion. It was clearly seen that when labor market is more and more knowledge-based, it is dependent on people and their skills, competencies, and knowledge. So actually, those economic growth issues emerge here too with the concept lifelong learning. Lifelong learning for each employee helps them to adapt quickly in the workplace. New technologies, practices, developments. Employees have the tools they need to keep up with industry standards. Ability to adapt results in less roadblocks during transitions to new practices or technologies, meaning less disruption to productivity levels. Learning gives employees ability to push business forward so that business doesn't fall behind competitors. Best practices can be discovered. This leads to employees developing skills to be most successful. Nurturing learning culture also means training employees for future opportunities. Hiring from within and reducing employee turnover saves time, money, and resources. On individual level, lifelong learning enhances active citizenship, personal development, self-sustainability, as well as competitiveness and employability. It improves economic outcomes and well-being. And personally, I think that learning new things is inspiring. When I am given the opportunity to learn at workplace, it gives me a feeling that I am valued by my employer. And that gives me motivation and commitment and inspiration in my work. I also think it gives me new career opportunities to widen my horizon. Learning at workplace makes a significant contribution for employer and employee. It is accessible and attractive for employees, and it's efficient and effective for employers. This picture is from a report of a group of specialists in adult education that identified policies that promote and support workplace learning of adults. In their work, you can find more building blocks on this topic, and there's a link on this slide as well. Time is running, but I'll make some points that are important when considering lifelong learning supply and activities. First of all, there is no one-size-fits-all prescription for promoting and developing adult learning in the workplace. It is covered by different types of policies with different objectives. Every national context is different. For example, how responsibilities are distributed between education providers, employers, and employees, or who funds adult learning in the workplace. Furthermore, countries have different needs. Is there a need for non-formal upskilling learning or learning leading to a formal qualification? Are there specific target groups with specific skills needs, or is there a need for generally accessible provision of learning at the workplace? Given these differences, there are different routes to increasing skills through learning. Routes may go via the employers, via training providers, or via employees directly, or via indirect access points like social services or guidance services. This group work of specialists identified common markers that can be combined to construct effective policies for different contexts. I combined them with other sources and tips for a list of important factors when developing learning activities. Centrality of the learner is highlighted everywhere. Ensure that workplace learning is tailored to adult learners' needs. Also, ensure that adult learning in the workplace responds to employers' needs. That makes it relevant to everyone. Quality of learning opportunities ensures you that you will have more work in the future. Otherwise, you might run out of work if conducted poorly. Positive attitude in society towards learning is, of course, very important, but you can also encourage employers to adopt a learning culture that supports career-long and lifelong learning. Not only positive attitude is maybe enough, but there should also be demand for learning in society or inside the company to make it appear tempting to learners. When there is supply of learning opportunities, there should also be comprehensive information, advice, and guidance services. This is actually one point that OECD gives to Finland in their report. Lifelong guidance is the heart of lifelong learning. Guidance can be organized differently through one-stop shop or be reaching out to those in need of reskilling and upskilling. And how do you deliver learning opportunities from digital platforms? Maybe this is also one growing field of business opportunities nowadays. Communicate about adult learning in the workplace using the language of those who need to be encouraged or those who need. This last slide shows you some sources that you may find insightful. Via these links, you find lifelong beautifully equipped to deal with the world that no longer exists. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tia. Quite interesting. I'm not quite sure if it was my internet or your internet which broke up a little bit, but I think in the end, I think we got the gist of what you wanted to get across. It was very insightful, I find. What I took away is that there's specifically 3 A's, or the AAA approach: the accessibility, the attitude, and availability, which remains in my head, but all in all, most important is that the motivation is there. Have you already had any feedback directly from teachers? Is there something which jumped out in your mind, Tia? Okay, I'm not sure if she is here. Okay, nonetheless, then I would say let's go over to the next presentation. This will be Ulla-Maija Seppänen, who is a senior lecturer at the Oulu University of Applied
Science. I can hear
Sciences.
you on a slow motion, so actually I didn't quite hear the question.
Okay.
But
I've just realized that there is some sort of time lag at the moment. I'm hoping that we are now on the same time. So coming back again, I would like to hand over the word to Ulla-Maija Seppänen for her topic from teaching to learning based on an example from Buckspin project in Nepal.
Okay. I hope you can see my slides and hear me. So hello everyone, and thanks Danny for inviting and introducing me to this webinar. So I'm going to talk to you about the theme from teaching to learning, becoming a coach for learning by doing to build educational capacity in Nepal. So Buckspin project is an educational project, and I'm going to tell you about its impact in Nepal. Here you can see pictures of us, 3 of us who were actually working from the Oulu University of Applied Sciences for this project. So there is Janne and Kimmo there. Kimmo is senior lecturer, and he's the project manager for this PACSPIN project. And Janne, like myself, is a pedagogical expert, and we were running the teacher education and like the entire process together. First, shortly about PACSPIN. PACSPIN is a cooperation project between Nepal and Finland, funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland. It has 5 main partners: 2 universities from Nepal, King's College and University of Kathmandu, 2 companies, Idea Studio Nepal and Young Innovations, both from Nepal, and Oulu University of Applied Sciences from Finland. Here are the 3 main goals of PACSPIN. So first is to develop educational environments. The second one is to develop quality of teaching, and the third one to develop impact of the education towards society. And this presentation is focusing to the part of quality of teaching. So what did we do for supporting the quality of educational teaching in Nepal? We did what teachers do. We developed an education, and here you see the process of it. The training is based on learning by doing, as the way we coach our students at home. It is a process of doing, acting, reacting, and reflecting. It is a process where level of difficulty, responsibility, and freedom rise gradually. It is a process of right challenge. It is challenging the learners in a right way, a bit hard, but not too hard, so that it is inspiring and motivational. On the first year of the project, we had 13 days of training. Every year, our funder was expecting us to have 10% more than the first year. So 13 first year, that would mean 15 on the second year, right? Okay, let's now see a short clip about the first year learnings, and let's hope that this is going to work.
With PACSPIN, I was able to introduce the concept of feedback in my classroom.
With PACSPIN and the techniques that I've learned, I've asked the students in my class to help them set their own personal goals.
I learned that classroom can be more interesting when we get the students involved actively.
So after being a part of this PACSPIN project, my classes have been more engaging.
So the teachers studying to become lab masters told to us that they learned knowledge about tools, methods, how to effect on environments and students. I don't know how much do you know about the teaching in Nepal, but my impression is that it is a lot based on, teacher talking, that I would personally call as talking heads. So doing things to learn in a systematic way, as we have in our lab learning model, was really interesting for people in Nepal. So instead of having 15 training days in 2018, we end up having 49 days. The universities joining preferred to use the money of the project to teachers' education instead of buying laptops and so on. If you remember, the first goal was to develop the learning environments, and instead of using the money for that, they decided to have more teachers' education. Okay, let's then see what the lab masters tell about their learnings after the second year. And they really speak fast here, so be prepared for that.
मेजर चाहिँ लर्निङ्स भनेको डिटेल्स प्रोसेसहरू डिफ्रेन्ट प्रोसेसहरू जुन चाहिँ मिसिङ आउट थियो मलाई थाहा थिएन, किनभने यो चाहिँ मेरो फर्स्ट टाइम हो एज अ ल्याब मास्टर होइन. पहिला म कोचेस भएर गरिरहेको थिएँ. अरू पार्टमा चाहिँ आई अन्डरस्टुड लट अफ स्किल्स स्ट्रेन्थ द्याट आई ह्याड एन्ड आई अन्डरस्टुड लाइक वाट काइन्ड अफ विकनेसेस आई ह्याभ एन्ड वाट आई निड टु वर्क अन भन्ने कुरा नै भएछ. सो आइ एम मोर कन्फिडेन्ट.
जेनरली पहिला बरु अलिअलि भए पनि दिन्थेँ होला मैले, हामी किङ्समा जिस्केर लिने भनेर भन्छौँ, टिचरले देखाउँदै गर्छ भनेर. सो पहिला प्रब्ली 60-40 हुन्थ्यो होला. अचेल म 20 मात्रै बोल्छु, 80 चाहिँ विद्यार्थीले बोलिरहेको छु क्लासमा.
While we were only worried about how to run these workshops, But this time our focus has shifted from how to why we're doing all the things that we're doing. So it's more clearer on what's the philosophy behind this workshop. We understand the major learning goals behind everything we do. And when that is there, even if we miss or screw up something, we know the purpose, so we can rectify it right there and then.
Okay, so from that video, you can see that they are reflecting their own learning, and their learnings are in totally different level than after the first year. So the focus of the learning was on 3 different things. It's about personal and professional development as a teacher. It's about changing relation towards others, especially students. And it is about understanding the purpose of one's work. And you already saw this slide, so then things went like really crazy in a positive way. Our project partners were not only working with their own students, but there were about 20 other colleges and universities plus companies asking for this kind of education. Our partners started to develop their own versions of education, for example, for primary and secondary level teachers. They also did trainings in India and Ethiopia. Our teacher education is clearly a process of transformation. It is a process where the teachers are challenged to see themselves from new perspectives and develop oneself as a teacher and perhaps also as a person. Process that requires teachers to re-evaluate themselves and their way of working. Our training program is a process to build the competencies for quality teaching and learning. Here you see phases of the process analyzed a little bit using the Bloom's taxonomy. So it is a competence building process where teachers first, if you look at the, what is that, left-hand down corner, where the teachers first need to experience themselves as the learners. In our case, that is an intensive 4 days workshop where the focus is in knowledge and experience as a learner. The second step is to assist in a workshop run by experienced lab masters. Teachers have their own duties that they need to plan, implement, reflect, and develop for better. This is 5 to 6 days, 24/7 experience. The next step is to run a given workshop. It includes all planning and running it with support from experienced lab masters. Learning by doing and project-based learning is much more demanding to plan and implement than, for example, a keynote like this. The fourth phase is to adapt the workshop to one's own context and run it by yourself. Well, actually, always with another lab master and a team of coaches if possible. And the final level is to create a new curricula. That is the competence we are aiming at, and this has happened. Like in King's College, they are now using totally new learning by doing based curricula called community as curricula, which is really interesting model focusing on education that has impact to communities and society. Now, when you look at that picture there, the process there are critical points in the process where we as trainers can most likely see how far each teacher is capable to develop. The colorful circles are circles of reflection, feedback, and iteration, all crucial issues of this process. I can honestly say we have developed something unique that is a solution for the needs we were addressed. But it is not only that. PINO was invited to apply to Solutions for Youth Employment Impact Portfolio by World Bank. We were chosen to be amongst the 44 global high potential youth employment projects. Sounds fancy, and it is fancy indeed to be part of that community. But still, at the end, it is all about this. It's about developing learning that will make our students as inspired lifelong learners. And to develop teachers who are ready and willing to go out from their own comfort zone in order to enable students to learn with right challenges and joy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulla-Maja. Very interesting. Just have to check my other screen. I'm amazed at the progress which you had done, and I believe you've brought across quite clearly what motivation and what factors behind the motivation come forward with those teachers. So I always thought teachers were just born, but you just proved to me that teachers learn to be teachers.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think we were also quite amazed ourselves. And I think the people who were the most amazed were the teachers who were there in that training themselves. Like, I think we were, none of us were even imagining, that people would be so interested and so excited, and they really wanted to learn about it. So I think it was partly because of teachers and partly because we were doing pilots with the students, so that the students actually started talking to their own teachers and, to their other students. And suddenly we had I don't know, how many applicants from the students to come to the pilots. The students were not our focus. Our focus was the teachers, but it was such a great thing, that people wanted to come there and they wanted to learn there. And yeah, it was really, really great. And I think also we were so honored to be part of the impact portfolio of the World Bank. I think that's also really, really great.
Oh, that's great. Of course, beautiful reference. So just a quick yes or no, did I understand correctly? If somebody would like to book or get something similar, then they can go to the address buckspin.org?
Well, either there or send a message to me or, to my university, and for sure, yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Good. Thank you very much, Ulla-Maja.
Thank you.
A quick message to all of you webinar watchers. If you have any questions, then please don't hesitate to comment in the Q&A. There is a Q&A button available, and we will do our best to reply to those questions either in text, or I may ask one of the presenters about their points of view. Moving along, I would like to give the word to Kati Kaupola. She is the Student Affairs Specialist from DIAC, and she's going to talk about co-creating training services together with working life organizations. Word is yours.
Yes, thank you, Danny, and thank you for inviting me to be one of the speakers today. Share you my screen. Yes, so I'm going to talk about co-creating training services together with working life organizations and give examples how we do that at Diakonia University of Applied Sciences. So first, briefly about our organization. We use this abbreviation DIA commonly in Finland. We educate students in social care, healthcare, church community work, and interpreting, and contribute development in those fields at the regional, national, and international levels. We have 5 campuses located in different parts of Finland, about 3,000 students and 250 members of staff. At Finnish level, we are a relatively small university of applied sciences, but we are largest provider of University of Applied Sciences level of education in social work. In addition to degree programs in bachelor's and master's level, we offer university studies, specialization studies, continuing education, training services, research, development, and innovation projects. I will switch my camera off so that my internet connection is a bit better. So yes, so what do we mean by training services? We mean continuing education, which can be aimed for individuals, teams, and organizations, depending on training and customers' needs. Training services do not lead to a degree and can be thought as lifelong learning, since age of learners vary and they are mostly in working life. In Finnish higher education context, term continuous learning is nowadays more commonly used than lifelong learning. We offer many tailor-made packages, not so many ready-made packages that fit to everyone. In training services, specialists or senior lecturers work as trainers, so not always only teaching personnel, but other specialists too, for example, who work in our development and innovation projects and as researchers. Next, about co-creation with working life organizations. On the left side of the slide, you can see general co-creation process at DIAC. First, there is a contact phase during which some organization contacts DIAC because they have a real-life need to change, develop, or improve something. In the next phase, specialists of DIAC negotiate with the organization about how to proceed, what is the preferred timeline, and who needs to be involved in the process. For example, does the whole organization need to be involved, or just some team or several teams, and which specialists or senior lecturers they need from DIAC? Then co-creation starts together with the specialist of DIAC and the organization, and people involved in the process learn as individuals and as a team or organization from each other. After co-creation, it will be evaluated and discussed how the process went and what was learned during the process and what should have been done differently. At DIAC, we believe in encounters and focus on our customers and their needs. A human orientation is an important issue for us in everything we do. And on the right side of the slide, you can see a couple of examples of co-created training services. For example, there can be a situation in which an organization needs help in well-being at work challenges and they contact DIAC. Then we can offer them different kinds of tailor-made solutions combining lessons, workshops, training sessions, and other collaboration forms according to their needs. Or another example could be of co-created training services, a situation in which some organizations' employees need training related to giving instructions and the organization contacts DIAC. For them, we can offer a previously co-created package which can be adapted to their special needs. For example, how many hours do they need for training and so on. Let's move further. Now I can give you a glance to our pilot project going on at the moment, which is called Akhop, and it's all about inclusion, co-creation, and collaborative leadership. We have a special project team planning and developing it at the moment. Deepest form of co-creation is done at Akhop. In Akhop, we can combine all development ideas, and there are, for example, projects that are part of Akhop. So what is Akhop? Akhop co-creates an ecosystem of which aim is to tackle wicked problems that have no clear solutions with social healthcare and employment services via quadruple helix framework. Innovations are co-created at the same time as they are researched. Students, teachers, researchers, service producers, and service users come together at Akhop, and there can be various organizations at the same time. For example, a city, a company, a foundation, and some other organizations, and so on. We have expertise especially related to people in challenging or vulnerable situations, so the focus is on solving those kind of challenges in the Akhop. Later on, other teams can also be added there. We aim for human-centric, interprofessional, and multi-actor solutions, and promote collaborative leadership, since social and healthcare industry has different sectors, but the customer is usually the same who needs support. 3 different co-creation tools can be used in the Akhop, which are a service integration design collaborative leadership tool, 3x10D life situation self-assessment tool, and a primary impacts tool. First of those 2 co-creation tools have been recognized and valued both nationally and internationally. Those co-creation tools can also be used in international projects of DIAC, not only in the Akhop. We are very excited to see what the Akhop brings and what kind of innovations will be developed together. Thank you for listening to my presentations. Do not hesitate to contact me via email if you have any questions. If I don't know the answer, my lovely colleagues are happy to help, and I will guide you to talk with them.
Thank you very much, Kati. Really interesting. I'm surprised that there are not more questions. I do have a question, if I may throw it at you. What would you say is a development time frame? Because you also note that you make tailor-made packages for trainings, and it would be interesting to know what is a typical time frame from concept until implementation, until you can start with the training elements, for example.
Well, it depends on situation, what type of training do they need? Do they need for like only 1 day or some hours or some longer period if we have specialists available? So I cannot say the exact time frame for that.
But it seems you have a very large scope of teachers that you can really adapt to a lot of things quite quickly, because I imagine that it's quite a task to create a course from 0 to implementation like that.
Yes, that's true. We need many people, senior lecturers, or then some project managers, or then also other specialists. So maybe not for next week. So it takes a bit more time to plan those packages.
Great. Okay, so thank you for that. Moving on, I would like to introduce Mr. Kim Holm from Festo Didactic. Kim is the head of sales for East Africa, and he will be speaking about employability and challenges in work life. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for inviting me. I will share my screen now. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Danny, can you see can you confirm?
Shall we do it from here?
You don't see it?
Nope.
Just a second. Just a second.
We can share it from our side, so we'll just begin sharing your presentation right now.
Just a second. I'll try once more. Doesn't. Oh yeah. Okay. No.
Now it's working.
Now it's working. Okay. Magic. Thank you. Okay. So just to come to the topic, we are from the industrial side. So back in 1992, the owner of the company actually defined that the organization is a learning company, Lernunternehmen of Deutsch. And I think this is in the whole philosophy of the company. You can see that they spend 1.5% of the turnover into lifelong learning. I mean, training of the employees. So I think this is a kind of proof that the learning organization is not just something you have in your speeches on the big parties. Okay, there is a comprehensive presentation which is distributed to you after this, so I just go into the topic of the challenges in the working life. Here just a few points what we do. We do train people. We have used digital learning, distant learning, etc. for a long time already, since the 90s. It's all hands-on. Development of the competencies, 4C competencies, everybody involved in education knows what that means: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity. If we turn that into the industry, we speak about competencies like industry needs practical qualification. What does it mean? It could mean that, are you able to run the factory? Are you able to run the machines? Relevant technology in training. That means that I know how to troubleshoot, to do fault finding, fast and efficient. Multidisciplinary. I can design improvements. The machines from the suppliers are not always ready. We have to improve them. We have to make them better. We need productivity. We ask ourselves, how can we bring the costs down? This is the question, always the question of money. It's quite cruel. And of course, we need to be competitive. We need to beat cheap imports coming from all over the world. So these are the needs from industry, and we need to sort of fulfill this. We need to have an answer to this in education. This is from our very, very, say, personal experience in the company itself. We have a few years ago moved into the biggest and one of the first digitalized production units in Europe. And that led us to, we had to create totally new skill sets for all our employees. They did not come from a Stone Age factory, they came from a traditional factory. Now they moved into a fully digitalized factory. What does it mean? We need to map every individual skills. The light, the gray part of this diagram is the existing skills, and the dark ones are the one needed in the new factory. And this we had to do for every single person in the factory. And to facilitate this training and to facilitate this ongoing challenge. And this was kind of an interesting path or say journey from the light gray area to the dark gray area for every single worker. And not only that, to make it practical, we installed inside the new factory, we installed learning factories so that you would not have to go away to be trained. So you could, anytime you could stop and get trained on site and go back to work and continue. Just examples, I mean, in the past, a typical industrial electrician, he walked around with a multimeter. Today, everything is handled by, you walk around with the tablets, the machines communicate with your tablet, you get warnings, you get alerts on the tablet. You don't even need to look for the red flashing light. So you can imagine this is a big change. And this put a high pressure on the education or in the further education, lifelong learning. New professions all over the place. Big data scientists, robot experts, IT managers, digital mentor, digital ethics officer, lean manager, or Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is what often is thought about as Internet of Things, when we speak about Industry 4.0, it's the industrial scope of the Internet of Things. Okay, we heard already theory about lifelong learning. It's, I think, one point which came true already. I think it was Thea who said it, that it's voluntary, and it gives a good, healthy feeling. You feel confident. You increase your competitiveness on the labor market, increase your quality of life. So it has a lot of positive impact, and in the end, it's good for the company, and it's good for the wallet for the company owners. This year, we had the COVID challenges, and this changed a lot in the scenery on lifelong learning. We had to stop all the face-to-face hands-on seminars. If you think that we had like 40,000 participants, so now all of a sudden we could have nothing. So last spring we started offering lots and lots of courses online, and we immediately realized that the long courses were not popular, so we had to do them in modules, short ones, 1 afternoon times 3 or 4 times 5 times 2 hours. That works better. From Africa, we had examples that we had in the South African offering. We had enrolled people from India, from Canada, from the US, from Europe. So all of a sudden, the seminar activities became multinational. It wasn't anymore the neighboring companies coming in. They came in from all over the world to the same lecture. We also offered the schools in free simulation and digital learning courses. But in Africa, for instance, we came into a halt because of the cost of the airtime. The students could not afford to hang on internet. So we had to negotiate with the providers to get free airtime for the students. Another challenge was also the awareness, how to benefit from digital learning, when to use it, how to use it, and how to make it practical. So these are things you can't do overnight. But this has been very interesting, and so lifelong learning goes on, although these challenges. So we continue. So if you have questions. And as Albert Einstein said, once you stop learning, you start dying. So I hope you keep on learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. I guess Einstein was quite right. If I take your message of 1.5% of your turnover, which Festo has invested or invests in education or in training of the employees, what would you say is the impact for the company with regard to the advance of technology? I mean, it does, or it should have an effect as a return afterwards, not just motivational, but
I think motivation gives quality.
Yeah.
And if you look at the number of years people you tend to work in the company, I think that already shows something. That I mean, if you have a very strong fluctuation of staff in a high-tech company, then you run into quality problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the investment in training, it's clearly positive. I mean, it gives a positive result.
It's quite interesting because in my experience from times when I was in other countries, very often companies would state and say, yes, we don't really invest into training that much, because if we further train those employees, they will then go to other companies. So it's quite inspiring to hear that Festo has such a point of view.
Yeah.
And it seems success, huh?
Yes, and of course you can always always say then, I mean, answer that what if they stay in your company and they are not trained?
Agreed. Absolutely.
I mean, we face that. This is interesting when you say this, because I worked in after the change in politics, I worked in East Europe, and we heard this argument. And now I face the same argument in East Africa, that if I train my staff, they will run away, or they will ask for more salary.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly the same I heard 20 years ago in Estonia.
Mm-hmm.
But I still believe that training is the solution.
Oh, absolutely. I'm fully on the same page with you. I would like to throw a question into the round which has come in. This question has been handed in by Hugo van Niekerk. How did Finland handle the lockdown periods, and who was learning enhanced during this period? Who would like to? I would say let's take 2 comments from 2 speakers. Show of hands. Teija, do you have anything to add to it? Would you like to comment?
Can you repeat the question? How did Finland
combat Finland handle the lockdown period, and how was learning enhanced during this period?
Okay, perhaps I can answer to that if you want to think about that.
Good.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I can of course talk only from my own university point of view. I don't know what has happened everywhere, but I think like I was quite amazed that we actually could manage to, you know, to have the learning online so fast. I'm now talking about the higher education. Well, of course, I have my own children, so I have seen also them doing their studies at home. But like from the university point of view, like when you were discussing, Kim and Danny, when you were discussing about the training and the education, what happened for us was that actually the day we found out that we have to close the university, or, you know, start doing things online. Of course, we have been doing them already for a long time, like especially here in North. We have long distances, people are studying from their homes, so we are quite used to that. But still there were quite a lot of, you know, students and staff who haven't been doing that. So the day we knew that we are going to shut down, they started sending us the messages about go to this education for Teams and this to Zoom. And, you know, the next day we had the education, and 2 days after that, the course were running online.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, but that's like, you know, we are used to do this kind of thing. So I think that's also the reason there, that we didn't, like my children, they are 15 and 17. I could see much more troubles with their learning than in the university learning.
Very interesting. I've also heard that Finland is one of the highest Twitter countries, or Twitter user countries. So at the moment, I'm not quite surprised that you were able to make the switch from physical to digital within days.
But I think it depends on the place, but at least this is what happened here. You know, like I said, we have lots of students who are doing the distance learning and stuff like that. So it is something that we are used to do.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you, Ulla-Maija.
I'm responsible for courses and training and education for job seekers. So this is not always that a high education level business, but we had a short period where there were no services, like no courses or no training for career counseling or career planning or job seeking. But then it took only 2 weeks when our providers of services, they organized everything online, and the providers say that everything's going smoothly and it's very nice. But now I've read the reports from, let's say, immigrants courses where they study Finnish in the beginning, when they come to Oulu and this country, and students are not that happy when they don't have skills in Finnish, for example, and they need to learn the language and then suddenly learn all the computer stuff to study online. It's not easy. So we did everything we could to open up the schools actually very early for those who are in need of a special attention and special education. For example, they need more support. We have lots of people who are capable studying online, but not everyone. So we've started with smaller groups and long distances and stuff, but we've tried to keep the learning ongoing all the time for job seekers from all levels all the time.
Very good. Great. Thank you, Oya. Tia. It's the name, the way it's written there. Kati, may I ask you a question? This is a personal interest of mine. I'm sure that you also experienced some challenges at the beginning of the COVID-19 situation. And as we are talking about continuous learning, would you like to share what was your most challenging aspect and what did you learn from it?
Well, I started working at DIAC in April in the middle of COVID-19. So I haven't been to office many times. I have just got to know my colleagues via Teams, so I haven't met everybody yet. So it's interesting learning period for me as well.
I can imagine.
And of course
that.
we are, yes. So it's like personal experience to me. But we have changed to our specialization studies and open university courses and also training services to online platforms. So they have worked quite well, but I don't know about the next year, is it going to change? That are companies willing to order training services, or do they have some problems, or do they want to meet people, or is it okay for online if people get tired of webinars and so on? So let's see how the situation will change.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely going to be a big question mark out there. I'm quite sure that we could spend at least another hour talking about changes and challenges. It's truly exciting and interesting to hear about ways to improve self-learning and especially raise the awareness of continuous learning, which is definitely an important thing in life. In German, there's an expression, wer rastet, der rostet, meaning he who stands still will start to rust. And I do personally believe that that's something that people around the world should take to heart. Find pride in your professions and continue to learn, because this is also something we never stop learning in life. And the current situation has showed it to us, but I'm very sure we're going to have even more situations in the future. There are still a few questions open in the question and answer. We will address those questions either on Facebook, in the emails if you're registered, of course, and perhaps still within the chat. Right now, I would like to tell you about the next webinar from AEF, which will be in November, on the 20th of November. But before that, Worlddidac will be holding a conference in Bern currently, and that conference is called Future Talk. For this purpose, I will just show you the screen and show you links. Should be available. Yeah. These links are how to keep in touch with PINO Network and with Worlddidac. The purpose of this is that continuous information will always be here for next events and information on education from Finland, but also globally in Worlddidac. At this point, I would definitely like to say a big thank you to all of the speakers who have taken the time to prepare themselves for these presentations, have really shared their valuable input. And at the same time, of course, a thank you to the team in the background, Annalea de Cortens, Joël Luthi, and Sarah Kuntz, who have been taking care of technology in the background. We hope that you have enjoyed the webinar, and we are now more or less done. Please do check up on Facebook. It will be there as a stream. It's actually been streamed live, but you can also watch it later on. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact either organization. Thank you very much for the time. Have a nice day. Bye.